Reaffirming unity and centrality, the 58th Summit of Foreign Ministers of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations came to a close in Malaysia. The Argentine Senate approved a 7.2% increase in pensions and retirement benefits, along with a boost in the bonus for minimum pensioners and an emergency law for disabled people. And in Palestine, the journalist's death toll has risen to 229 since October of 2023. Hello and welcome to From the South. My name is Belén de los Santos. I'm from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. We now begin with the information. Reaffirming unity and centrality, the 58th Summit of Foreign Ministers of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations came to a close in Malaysia. For 4 days, the capital of Kuala Lumpur hosted this meeting, which was attended by the foreign ministers of China, Wang Yi, Russia, Sergei Lavrov, and the U.S. Secretary of State, Marco Rubio. Under the slogan Inclusivity and Sustainability, ministers from the 10 member countries of the alliance and their main international partners reaffirmed their unity and centrality, advocating for strengthening internal economic integration and ratifying their willingness to engage in multilateral diplomatic dialogue. China and the organization strengthened and expanded important agreements, not only in the economic sphere, but also in the field of regional conflict mediation. And we go now to Nicaragua, as the National Assembly approved on Thursday 2 credits agreements with China for the expansion and modernization of the port of Corintio in the northwest of the country. The deal seeks to finance the expansion and modernization of the Julia Herrera de Pomares Logistics Center located within the port. For this, the Nicaraguan presidency submitted a bill equivalent to more than $126 million between Managua and the Chinese Iconic Technology Company Limited. The partnership will strengthen the technical, logistical, transport, and communication capacities for goods and merchandise that pass through the strategic port. The Parliament approved the proposal. As Deputy stated, it evidences the government's commitment to positioning the nation as a leading regional logistics hub.
The effort we are making as a government to develop the country's logistics infrastructure has the fundamental objective of positioning Nicaragua as a leading regional logistics hub. This cannot be achieved overnight, and it can only be achieved with resources such as those being channeled through this credit facility granted by the sister Republic of China for the strengthening, expansion and modernization of the logistics center Julia Herrera Pomares, located in Rialejo.
In Venezuela, thousands of citizens rallied on Thursday to demand the freedom of children kidnapped in the United States as part of the immigration policies implemented by the Donald Trump administration. The Venezuelan people took to the streets of Caracas in defense of the human and immigration rights of their countrymen in the United States. In addition, demonstrators further denounced the kidnapping of Venezuelan migrants in El Salvador, calling for justice from agencies responsible for guaranteeing immigration rights. The Great March took place after the Minister of the Interior, Justice and Peace, Diosdado Cabello, denounced the kidnapping of 4 more Venezuelan children separated from their parents at the time of their deportation. And as many Latin American countries, El Salvador has not escaped the massive deportations from the United States, as more than 60 flights carrying migrants have arrived in the first 6 months of the year. Our correspondent Roberto Hugo Presa with the details.
Un bus repleto llegó al Centro de Atención de Migrantes en San Salvador. A busload arrived at the migrant care center in San Salvador. They are part of a new flight of deportees from the United States, many of them with immigration proceedings and with several years of residence in that nation, who were torn away from their families by Donald Trump's fierce immigration policies.
They violated my rights and my immigration process. I am married to a United States citizen, and they still deported me. She is devastated because she has left her children and grandchildren there. For me, I am happy because I will see her and she will be with me. But what will become of the children who are left there?
So far this year, officially there are no known figures of deportees from the United States. However, despite the government's silence, international sources and border witnesses have confirmed that at least 60 flights arrived in the first half of the year.
And there we have noticed that there has been an increase of around 30% of flights of people deported from the United States to this country. This increase of flights of deported persons does not even include details of the nationalities. We assume that they are Salvadoran persons deported from the United States, but we do not know if other nationalities are coming to this country.
Massive
raids resulting in deportations in this country will hit the fragile economy, experts say. In addition, the impact of the 1% tax on remittances, which constitute about 25% of the local economy's gross domestic product, will have to be awaited.
The 1% tax is definitely going to reduce the income of the poorest households in El Salvador, because those who are going to pay it are the undocumented. Because the tax is aimed at those who send the remittance in cash, those who do not have a bank account, those who do not have a credit or debit card there.
Despite the
persecution and expulsion of migrants in the United States, those who study the issue say that thousands of Salvadorans continue to migrate because of the economic situation. They used to flee violence, and now they are fleeing poverty, they say.
In the end, the famous slogan that we have heard for many years continues to be true. If they are going to kill me here in this country, they better kill me trying to get to the United States. Now it has changed. If I'm going to starve to death here, I'd better make the effort to get to the United States. That is, conditions have changed, but migration continues to occur.
Migration studies reveal that Salvadorans are now also migrating to new destinations such as Spain and other European countries.
Roberto Hugo Presa, teleSUR, El Salvador.
And in other topics, Cuba delivered to the Secretary General of the United Nations an update of the national list of persons and entities that have been subject to criminal investigations and are wanted by Cuban authorities. The announcement was made during a press conference by Vice Minister of Foreign Relations, Josefina Vidal Ferreiro. The new list was published in the Official Gazette of the Republic of Cuba and includes 62 people born in Cuba but not residents and 20 terrorist entities in accordance with the UN Security Council Resolution 1373 of 2001, the international law and the domestic legal system. 4 deceased people have been removed from the list and 5 new individuals and 1 organization have been added. Now we have a short break coming up, but first, remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back from the South. We continue with more information. The Argentine Senate overwhelmingly approved a 7.2% increase in pensions and retirement benefits, along with the boost in the bonus for minimum pensioners and an emergency law for disabled people. This approval marks a significant political setback for President Javier Milei, who has vowed to veto this bill, arguing it threatens his government's strict fiscal austerity and zero deficit goals. Milei's commitment to strict fiscal cuts has been widely criticized for neglecting the social impact of his policies. The bill, supported by opposition and centrist lawmakers, aims to adjust pensions in line with inflation and address the growing social needs amid high poverty and inflation rates that have eroded retirees' purchasing power. And for the upcoming Colombian national elections, the vote count will be handled by a private company previously accused of irregularities. The announcement has triggered warnings from the government and several political figures, and our correspondent, Hernán Tomar, has more.
El presidente Petro expresó su preocupación
The president expressed his concern after learning that the private company Thomas Gregg and Sons won the bid for the logistics and data management for the development of the upcoming elections.
La empresa Thomas Gregg and Sons tiene un historial de
There is a history of irregularities in the management of elections in Colombia. That is why it is worrying about transparency, as President Petro has said. Remember that in 2018 there were thousands of complaints about possible manipulations and irregularities in the electoral records that some categorized as a possible fraud against President Petro in his presidential aspiration in 2018. But also in 2022, they disappeared more than 800,000 votes to the historical pact in his list to the Senate, which would sacrifice several seats, so he is right.
le sacrificaría varias curules.
Desde las organizaciones de seguimiento electoral,
From the electoral monitoring organizations, not only are the consequences generated by the monopoly of this company evident, but they also warn of the clear political interests behind it for the next elections in 2026.
El gran problema es que una compañía privada en cuya junta directiva
The big problem is that a private company in whose board of directors have been members of the traditional parties like Andrés Pastrana,
del Partido Conservador o el expresidente Juan Manuel Santos,
like Noemi Sanin of the Conservative Party or the former president Juan Manuel Santos, all figures of the traditional parties are in the board of directors of this company, is the one that controls the logistics and the technology of the electoral process.
La logística y la tecnología del proceso electoral. Amén de que
Besides, it has all the data of the 52 million Colombians because it manages the printing of the passports in such a way that this is a problem of national sovereignty. It is a problem of electoral transparency.
Es un problema de transparencia electoral.
Algunos sectores políticos denuncian la extraña manera en la
Some political sectors denounce the strange way in which for more than 3 decades Thomas Gregg has become an unbeatable player in the public procurement sector.
Necesitamos un proceso electoral transparente.
We need a transparent electoral process, and for it to be transparent, we need it not to continue to be in the hands of a private company.
Particular que lo tiene desde hace 30 años, que siempre gana las licitaciones. En Colombia decimos que esas son licitaciones.
We say that these are tailor-made bids because they are tailored to the needs of these companies, so that in the end those who apply will have to resign because in the end, the only ones who can fulfill the conditions are those who have been doing it for 30 years.
Los únicos que pueden cumplir las condiciones son los que lo han venido haciendo desde antes.
El presidente además alertó que la empresa Thomas Gregg concentra los datos de los
The president also warned that the company Thomas Gregg concentrates the data of Colombians and above all the electoral data for some analysts. This company has been maintained thanks to its multiple alliances with the traditional groups of political power that today maintain it with state contracts despite the multiple accusations against its owners.
Hernán Darío Tobar Gaitán, teleSUR, Bogotá, Colombia.
We continue now with other news. Brazil will impose 50% tariffs on U.S. goods in response to Trump's trade measures. President Luis Ignacio Lula da Silva responded to Donald Trump's letter by implementing reciprocal tariffs of 50% on U.S. goods. Lula also did not rule out the possibility of taking the matters to international bodies to challenge Trump's decision to apply a 50% tax on Brazilian products. He assured that his administration had been in talks with Washington since the 10% tariffs were announced. Despite his willingness to dialogue, da Silva again accused Trump of misinforming about the situation of the trade relationship between the two countries and demanded respect for Brazil. In this context, supporters of President Luis Ignacio Lula da Silva, along with unions and leftist social movements, gathered in Sao Paulo to voice opposition to recent U.S. trade measures targeting Brazilian exports and to demand the taxation of billionaires. The demonstration underscored calls for a fairer tax system in Brazil and criticized what participants described as an anti-people Congress. Protesters also responded to U.S. President Donald Trump's announcement of new tariffs, emphasizing the need to defend Brazil's economic sovereignty and amid external pressures. The event included criticism of Sao Paulo's governor Tarcísio de Freitas for his alignment with Trump and former President Jair Bolsonaro, with demonstrators urging local leaders to prioritize the interests of Brazilian workers and the national economy. And in Venezuela, President Nicolás Maduro announced the approval of a special fund to support farmers affected by the impact of climate change. The measure aims to facilitate the recovery of crops, livestock, and rural roads that have suffered significant damage after recent torrential rains. The fund is part of the Mother Earth government mission launched on Thursday by the president during a visit to the state of Mérida. There, Maduro reaffirmed his commitment to the agricultural sector and emphasized the need to reactivate production in the affected areas. Heavy rainfall continues to seriously impact various regions of the country, prompting the Bolivarian government to activate emergency teams and provide assistance to the most vulnerable communities. And we have a second short break coming up, but before, we invite you to visit our Facebook page at teleSUR English. There you'll be able to watch our top stories, special live coverages, and much more. Follow the page and activate notifications to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final short break, don't go away. Welcome back from the South. We continue with more information. The situation of journalists in Haiti is becoming increasingly alarming. The most recent case is that of Roger Claudie Israel, a reporter who disappeared in the city of Mirabelais in the center of the country while covering an attack by armed criminal groups. Roger Claudie Israel's disappearance reflects the high level of risk faced today by the media in Haiti, where being a journalist has become a high-risk profession. In the last year alone, several reporters have been kidnapped, shot, or forced into exile as historic media outlets such as Radio Television Caraibes have been attacked and burned. In the capital, 90% of the territory is under the control of criminal groups who not only threaten journalists in the streets but also directly attack media headquarters in order to silence the situation in the country. And we turn to Palestine at this moment as the government media office in the Gaza Strip denounced the killing of another journalist in an Israeli strike, taking the death toll of media members to 229 since October of 2023. The media office stated that Ahmad Abu Abisha, who worked as a correspondent for Palestine Today TV, lost his life after being directly hit by an Israeli drone in front of his home. In this regard, the media office condemned the systematic Israeli assassination of Palestinian reporters in Gaza and called on human rights and media institutions to condemn these crimes. The Palestinian Journalists Union also condemned the killing as a deliberate and criminal act aimed at silencing the truth.
انتشلها أحد رجال الدفاع المدني وأعطانا هذه الأمانة وقال هذه أمانة جبر.
And we continue in Palestine as at least 15 people, including 10 children, have been killed by an Israeli attack while queuing outside a medical point in central Gaza. The attack hit families waiting for nutritional supplements and medical treatment outside a medical point in Deir al-Balah. The attack targeted an area near the Tayara roundabout where families had gathered amid the ongoing humanitarian crisis in the besieged enclave. Israel's genocidal attacks continue unabated despite UN Security Council calls for an immediate ceasefire and International Court of Justice directives urging action to prevent genocide and alleviate the dire humanitarian situation in Gaza. In this context, the UN has reiterated its condemnation of Israeli military actions in Gaza and demanded the opening of border crossings to avoid the collapse of essential services. This way, the international body warned of the imminent danger of disruption of humanitarian and health services, warning that the situation would increase the incidence of water-related diseases such as cholera, diarrhea, and dysentery. In addition, the organization condemned the massacre of children and women at the hands of the Israeli occupying forces. And we move on to other topics as the third river tramway route was inaugurated in Moscow. These highly environmentally friendly electric boats have already carried 2 million passengers in 2 years. Our correspondent Oleg Yasinski with more.
Moscú, la capital de Rusia, está en constante transformación.
Moscow, the capital of Russia, is constantly transforming and seeking to balance its historical heritage with modern urban trends. The inauguration of the new river tramway route is a project that brings together this past of river transport and, at the same time, offers citizens an innovative form of mobility.
Ciudadanos una forma innovadora de movilidad.
All ships and docks are of high ecological standard, which makes any kind of oil product spillage completely impossible, as the vessels are electric and are charged at the docks, where special charging stations have been installed. The charging time ranges from 15 to 20 minutes, depending on the route, and the frequency established on these routes. The boats in the latest delivery can travel up to 200 kilometers on a single charge.
Durante la Unión Soviética, los tranvías fluviales eran...
During the Soviet Union, river streetcars were a popular means of transport connecting different districts along the capital's two rivers, the Moskva and the Yauz. With the metro and automobile infrastructure, they lost their importance, but now, with new technologies and integration into the public transport system, their potential has been developed.
It is difficult to exaggerate the importance of the Moscow River for the city. It is the river that, in fact, gave its name to the city, to the capital of Russia. First there was the river, and only then the city came into being. Of course, in ancient Moscow, as in all antiquity when roads did not yet exist, the main axis for exploring territories and populating new settlements were rivers. That is why today, when river transport is revitalized and the third regular traffic route on the river is opened in Moscow, it is a big and important step in the development of transport and in the reintegration of the river into the life of the city.
New river routes connect important points throughout the city. The trams are not just for a traditional sightseeing trip along the river. They are a real public transport alternative with excellent sustainability. The electric streetcars generate no emissions, which is crucial for a metropolis seeking to improve air quality.
These boats, which are being reincorporated into the public transport network of the Russian capital, have truly unique characteristics because they can be called icebreakers. They are also electric icebreakers. Why? Because they can also travel along the Moscow River in the harsh Moscow winters and can break through up to 20 centimeters of ice. So it really is something truly unique.
These new routes are excellent for improving urban mobility. They are functional, sustainable, and make the river and the landscapes around it not only beautiful, but also a real alternative for daily transportation in a city that is growing and modernizing every day.
teleSUR, Moscú.
And like this, we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. Also join us on social media. We are on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok as well. For telesur English, my name is Belén de los Santos. Thank you for watching.